Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in the room usually gets everyone's attention, but somehow the quiet person gets everyone's respect? Think about it. In almost every meeting, classroom, or social gathering, there's always someone who barely speaks. Yet when they finally do, everyone stops and listens. Why? What do they know that most people don't? And what if staying silent isn't a weakness at all, but one of the most powerful psychological advantages you can have? Most people believe power comes from speaking more, proving yourself, and making your presence impossible to ignore. But psychology suggests something completely different. In fact, every unnecessary word you say can slowly reduce your value in the eyes of others without you even realizing it. That sounds unfair, doesn't it? But by the end of this video, you'll understand why silence has helped some of the world's most influential people gain respect, build authority, and even win arguments without saying much at all. Imagine you meet two strangers. The first person talks nonstop. Within 5 minutes, you know their hobbies, their opinions, their achievements, and even what they had for breakfast. The second person smiles, listens carefully, asks a few thoughtful questions, and only speaks when they actually have something meaningful to say. Now ask yourself honestly, which one stays in your mind longer? Most people choose the second person. But here's the strange part. It's not because they said something extraordinary. It's because your brain naturally becomes curious about what it doesn't fully understand. Humans are wired to solve mysteries. When someone reveals everything immediately, your curiosity disappears. But when someone leaves space, your mind starts filling in the blanks. This is called the curiosity gap. Your brain hates unfinished stories. That's why cliffhangers keep you watching TV shows. That's why you can't stop thinking about a text message that simply says, "We need to talk." And it's exactly why quiet people often seem more interesting than loud people. Now here's where it gets even more fascinating. Think about social media. Why do some celebrities almost never post, yet every photo they upload instantly becomes global news? Scarcity creates value. When something becomes rare, your brain automatically assumes it must be important. The same principle applies to your words. If you speak every second, your words become common. But if you choose your moments carefully, people begin to believe that what you're about to say actually matters. Without realizing it, you've increased your perceived value. But most people do the exact opposite. The moment there's silence in a conversation, they panic, they start explaining, they overshare. They try to fill every empty second with words, not because they have something important to say, but because silence makes them uncomfortable. And that's exactly where they lose their power. Because confidence doesn't rush to speak. Confidence is comfortable waiting. In fact, researchers have found that people often associate calm, deliberate speech with competence. Someone who pauses before answering can appear more thoughtful than someone who responds instantly, even if both know the exact same information. Think about the most respected teacher you ever had. Did they shout constantly? Or did they pause before saying something important, making every student lean in just a little closer? That pause wasn't accidental. It created anticipation, and anticipation creates attention. But here's the question that changes everything. If silence is so powerful, why are most people afraid of it? Because silence forces people to face something they spend their entire lives trying to avoid: uncertainty. When you're silent, you don't know what the other person is thinking. Maybe they agree with you, maybe they don't, maybe they're judging you. That uncertainty feels uncomfortable, so your brain pushes you to speak, to explain yourself, justify your actions, or seek reassurance. But here's the irony. The moment you start chasing validation, you often lose respect. Imagine you're negotiating your salary, you make your offer, and then silence. Most people can't handle those few quiet seconds. They immediately say things like, "But I'm flexible," or "I mean, if that's too much." Without realizing it, they've weakened their own position before the other person even responds. Experienced negotiators do the opposite. They make their point and then wait. That silence creates psychological pressure. The other person now feels responsible for filling the gap. And surprisingly, the one who speaks first often gives away more information than they intended. This isn't manipulation, it's human nature. Now think about arguments. Have you ever noticed that the angrier someone becomes, the more they talk? They interrupt. They repeat themselves, they raise their voice, but the calmest person in the room often appears to have the most control, even before they've proven they're right. Why? Because your brain naturally connects emotional control with strength. When someone remains composed under pressure, people assume they have confidence, and confidence is incredibly persuasive. This is why true leaders don't react to every criticism. They don't feel the need to answer every insult. They don't waste energy trying to win every argument. They understand something most people never learn. Not every attack deserves a response. Sometimes your silence says more than the perfect comeback ever could. Think about a lion. Have you ever seen a lion constantly roaring to prove it's powerful? No. Most of the time, it's calm. It watches, it waits, it only acts when it needs to. Meanwhile, smaller animals make noise constantly because they have to convince everyone they're dangerous. Humans aren't very different. People who constantly brag about their intelligence, wealth, or success are often trying to convince others, and sometimes themselves. Those who truly possess these qualities rarely feel that need. There's another psychological reason silence is powerful. It's called active listening. Most people don't actually listen during conversations. They're simply waiting for their turn to speak. While the other person is talking, they're already preparing their next sentence. But when someone genuinely listens, something incredible happens. The other person feels understood, and people trust those who make them feel understood. This is why the best therapists ask more questions than they answer. The best interviewers let their guests talk. The best leaders spend more time listening than speaking, because every conversation contains information. If you're always talking, you're never collecting it. Here's a simple experiment. The next time you meet someone new, challenge yourself to speak less than they do. Ask thoughtful questions. Maintain eye contact. Don't interrupt. Notice what happens. You'll be surprised how quickly people start opening up. They'll tell you their dreams and their fears, their biggest frustrations, and all you had to do was stay quiet long enough for them to feel heard. Ironically, people often leave these conversations thinking, "You're such an interesting person," even though they did most of the talking. Why does that happen? Because people remember how you made them feel far more than what you actually said. But silence has a dark side too, because staying quiet at the wrong moment can cost you opportunities, relationships, and even your self-respect. So where's the line between powerful silence and harmful silence? That's where most people get it completely wrong. The difference comes down to one simple question. Are you staying silent because you're in control, or because you're afraid? Those two types of silence may look identical from the outside, but psychologically, they're worlds apart. Imagine your coworker takes credit for your hard work in front of your boss. You stay quiet. Not because you're calm, not because you're strategic, but because you're afraid of confrontation. That's not powerful silence. That's fear wearing the mask of wisdom. Now imagine the same situation. Instead of reacting emotionally, you wait until the meeting ends. You collect your thoughts, speak privately to your boss, present the facts calmly, and let the evidence speak for itself. Same silence, completely different outcome. Powerful silence is intentional. Fearful silence is automatic. The smartest people know the difference. And this brings us to one of the biggest misconceptions about intelligence. Many people think intelligent people are quiet because they're shy, but often they're quiet because they're observing. While everyone else is busy trying to be heard, they're busy trying to understand. They notice the person who keeps interrupting. They notice who becomes defensive when challenged. They notice who changes their personality depending on who's in the room. These tiny details reveal far more than words ever could. Here's a thought experiment. Imagine walking into a room where you've never met anyone. One person immediately starts talking about how successful they are. Another person spends the first 10 minutes quietly observing everyone's behavior. Who do you think leaves the room with more useful information? The second person. Because attention is limited. Every second you spend talking is a second you're not learning. This is why Warren Buffett is known for listening far more than speaking. This is why great detectives ask questions instead of making assumptions. This is why elite negotiators stay calm while everyone else becomes emotional. Observation gives you an advantage that noise never can. There's another reason silence is so powerful. It protects you from unnecessary mistakes. Think about every embarrassing thing you've ever said, every secret you accidentally revealed, every promise you couldn't keep, every argument you wish you had handled differently. Almost all of them had one thing in common. They happened because you spoke too quickly. There's an old idea that says, once words leave your mouth, they no longer belong to you. You can't take them back. You can't edit them. You can't pretend they were never spoken. But silence gives you options. It gives your brain time to catch up with your emotions, and sometimes, just a 5-second pause can completely change the direction of a conversation. Neuroscientists have found that our emotional brain reacts much faster than our rational brain. That's why people send angry messages they later regret. That's why heated arguments often end with the words, "I didn't mean that." The smartest people don't have fewer emotions. They simply create a gap between feeling and responding. That tiny gap is where wisdom lives, but here's something even more surprising. Silence doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. When you're constantly talking, scrolling, texting, and consuming information, your mind never gets a chance to think deeply. Your life becomes a series of reactions, but when you spend time in silence, without music, without notifications, and without endless distractions, something unusual begins to happen. You start hearing thoughts that were buried beneath all the noise. Some of those thoughts will make you uncomfortable. Others might completely change your life, and that's exactly why so many people avoid silence. Because silence doesn't only reveal the world around you, it reveals the world inside you. The question is, are you ready to hear what it's been trying to tell you all along? Maybe that's why the most important conversations you'll ever have won't happen with another person. They'll happen with yourself, in complete silence. Think about the biggest decisions of your life. Choosing a career, ending a relationship, starting a business, changing your habits, those decisions rarely come from moments of chaos. They come from moments when you finally slow down long enough to think clearly. The world constantly tells you to speak louder, post more, prove yourself, and chase attention. But attention isn't the same as respect. Anyone can attract attention. Very few people earn respect. Respect is built through consistency, through emotional control, through thoughtful actions, and through knowing when your words will create value and when they'll only create noise. Here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, try 3 simple experiments. First, in every conversation, listen just a little longer before responding. You'll notice details you've been missing for years. Second, before sending an emotional message, wait 10 minutes. You may discover that your strongest response is no response at all. Third, spend 15 minutes every day without your phone, music, or distractions, just you and your thoughts. At first, it'll feel uncomfortable, then it will feel peaceful, and eventually it will become one of your greatest advantages. Because silence isn't empty, it's where clarity is born, it's where confidence grows, it's where discipline replaces impulse, and it's where truly intelligent people separate themselves from everyone else. Remember, being silent doesn't mean being invisible, it means choosing your moments carefully. Speak when your words add value, stay quiet when they don't. Not because you're afraid, but because you've learned that not every opinion deserves your energy, not every argument deserves your attention, and not every silence needs to be filled. The strongest person in the room isn't always the loudest. It's often the one who has complete control over their own mind. So the next time you feel the urge to interrupt, to explain yourself, or to prove your worth, pause, take a breath, ask yourself one question. Am I speaking because it matters, or because I'm afraid of the silence? That single question can change the way people see you. More importantly, it can change the way you see yourself, because in a world where everyone is fighting to be heard, the person who knows when not to speak often says the most.